So thank you all so much for joining us today for the HEA Professional Development Webinar. And today, Sean James is going to talk to us about the power of horticulture. So Sean James has over 40 years of experience in the landscape horticulture profession. And right now he owns a company called Sean James Consulting and Design. And I just conversed with Sean before. I've heard of him from everybody. He's a legend in the profession. But really the focus is on in the environment and really preparing the next generation for everything that the landscape horticulture profession can and is already doing for our environment. So Sean's also teaching for Landscape Ontario in the GROW program. He's teaching apprenticeship and the START, and also a rain garden program at Mohawk. And I believe he's got some amazing photos to share along with his stellar knowledge. So without further ado, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. This is great. This is awesome. I can't get over the way the world is moving forward, and it's actually filling me with hope. So I truly believe that landscapers deserve capes, that we have all of the tools to fix all of the problems in the world, that there's no one big solution, but a whole bunch of little solutions, and that we are the way forward with that. There are easy sells. What do we all love? Everybody's engaged with Save the Monarchs, Save the Bees, and all the things. I'm happy to ride the Save the Bees coattail. They were looking at honeybees, but there's so much more than that. And if we can dovetail in with that, that's great. And they also, many things do double duty. And that's the whole idea of a lot of what I'm talking about today. One too far. There are so many creatures that we can inspire people with. And there's a tool to get everyone engaged. I'd love to see a careful what you squish hashtag out there, because there's so many good creatures around us, and if we support them, then everything does so much better. If you bring birds into the landscape, not only do they feed on insects, but they also soothe us. I don't have a Japanese beetle problem in my garden because I have swamp sparrows, and I have song sparrows, and I have red-winged blackbirds, and they all eat the adults of Japanese beetles, which is cool. Nothing gets out of control. And these are messages that we can inspire people with. And they're already inspired. I mean, they're here because they're inspired. They're coming into our world ready. They're primed in horticulture because they want to change the world. And either consciously or subconsciously, they recognize that gardening is the place to do it. We're running this START program at Mohawk, and it's all people who want to change the world. In fact, we changed the program more to weave in more things like permaculture, because the students were engaging with it. So, okay, I can go left. They want to go left, I can go left. And you should see the projects that they're producing. And this is a great example of that. Those students are being invited to be part of this 3 half-day in class and then 3 half-day build rain garden projects. And they're there. They work their hearts out on Saturday. I think that we don't need to sacrifice anything. I think that we can show our students that you can have the best of all worlds, that if we can create something lovely and that also serves pollinators, serves everything, then we can get them to go out into the world and run companies on their own, to be part of their industry and to take that message forward. Because sometimes the old people get stuck in their ways, and we need a fresh perspective, and I'm seeing that slowly weaving into the industry, which is wonderful. I do think that we need to be more honest with them, though, more frank with them about setting expectations.
Can you grab the what?
That this is hard, that what we do is hard. You know, so many people start in our industry and quit a couple of days later because they're like, I hurt. Why do I hurt? Yeah, that's work. And it's also not instant. They've been trained by HGTV to expect instant landscapes. And I think we need to show them both sides of the coin, both look at what we can do, and it's going to take a little time. That's one of the beauties to me of landscaping. I'm not particularly looking forward to being 80, but I'm looking forward to being driving around in my hover car and looking at all the trees that I planted. I think that showing them that there are many ways, like permaculture, enhancing food security. That's a big problem. When 9/11 happened, we had 1 week of food in Canada. And again, it doesn't have to be a block of veggies in the backyard. They can be woven into the landscape because veggies themselves are gorgeous. You never, no matter what your goal is, you never need to sacrifice beauty. This is an all edible landscape that weaves in permeable paving, it weaves in rain capturing, and it weaves in, of course, edibility. But they weren't designed in rows and blocks. They were designed in drifts, just like one would with any other kind of plant. Low impact development, rainscaping is another place that students can be shown the big differences that we can make. Flooding is the #1 insurance claim in Canada now. And also a lot of the plants that are perfectly suited for it are native plants. So we can support pollinators, we can support birds, all while protecting our creeks and the life that's in them in the downstream. So these are all things that are easy to jump onto that kids are gonna, and a lot of them aren't kids. I'm turning into my dad. Everybody a year younger than me is a kid. Um, we did some work for HGTV and for Carson Arthur. And the first thing we did was rip out asphalt and put in what turned into a beautiful landscape. This was not a stellar place to go hang out. And after we did this installation, this became a destination in that neighborhood. People would come just to sit in the garden, to see somewhere green, because we resonate with that. Water soothes us in the gardens. Birds soothe us in the garden. Just green soothes us in the garden. Going for a walk in a forest makes us feel better. And it's on the news. People are hearing this sort of thing. It's all over social media, which is of course where they get their news. So they're coming in ready to learn. All they need is us to give them the tools and maybe be equally enthusiastic. There are new programs like fusion gardening, low maintenance, water efficient landscapes that again weave in things like native endangered species like Opuntia. They don't have to, that doesn't need to be your only palette, but you can have a lot more woven into things like that, which is great. Um, so I think, again, empowering. We've spent so long as landscapers and landscape professionals and horticultural teachers with the idea that I'm just a gardener. Just I'll just sit in the corner and wait for people to notice me. No, we sell joy. We sell the only thing other than a Rolls Royce that goes up in value after you buy it. That's power. That's something that should have you go in and talk to a customer or to your students. They're customers too in a way, and go in with a you're gonna like this, like not a greasy salesman attitude, but a you want what I have to sell, whether it's knowledge or whether it's a landscape or whether it's just plain old improving the world. Maybe the landscaping is a secondary feature. You're just trying to improve the world. You just happen to be making it pretty while you're at it. So that all gives you power. Um, Things like trees, a lot of people are looking at planting trees to fix the world now, and that's what we do. We do that. They cool, they beautify, they sequester carbon. That's a lot of carbon sitting there. And any chance that you can get, I used to be very quiet. I'm probably on a spectrum somewhere, so I used to just wait and try and squelch Sean. But like I'm here with my guys, and I'm like, oh guys, come on over here. Look at this. See this scar on the side of this tree? Gigawatts pass through that. This is a lightning strike, and you see their faces light up. But the business of being Canadian and quietly sitting in the corner doesn't carry that. Figure out what you love and let it out of the box. The more I do that, the more successful I am, both as a design installer, but also as a teacher. And improving mental health. Like these are all things that we do. And old ideas made new again. All farmers used to do this all the time, but now it's a new idea called energy efficient landscaping, to plant trees to shade your house. And what we're learning about trees and how they communicate and so on is incredible. We know lots, you see these studies done, why would you do a study on that? But some of these things are brilliant. Gardening fires up the immune system. It fights street crime. There's a guy named Roy Diblick, The Joy of Roy. And Roy did a garden in inner city Chicago, not the good inner city Chicago. And he went back to check out the Boulevard Garden, and some little old lady from the Horticultural Society toured him around, as is the way. And he said, "That's looking good." And she said, "Yes, and isn't it nice to see everybody out on their front steps, grandmothers and grandsons?" "Sure, why?" "Oh, you couldn't come out before, you get shot." "Why is it okay to go out now?" "Oh, because everybody's out now to see the garden, to be in the garden." We don't think about how powerful that is. Everybody knows that, looking out a hospital window or an office window makes us heal better or work harder without the whip. These are good things for us. Interest in native plants is just exploding right now, because it's not just the native plant, it's all the things that the native plants can do. Oh, pretty plant, yes, and it feeds native species, and it supports pollinators, and it's better for our local climate. We're becoming aware of things and the resources that are out there, like the Ontario Invasive Plant Council. They have all kinds of information on invasive species and how to remove them. And these are things that can be shared with students. And it might be just a rabbit hole that they can fall down to. This PDF will be sent out to folks, and there are a few links in here. And if no one's interested in clicking on it, they don't have to. But if they're like, invasive species, what's that all about? Then they can learn more. I always felt that being a student wasn't so much about what my teacher was teaching, but about what does the teacher have that I can mine for? What can I dig for? This person loves this or that. How can I go find that information and so on? Teaching people, and these concepts are being woven right into the national standards now. Concepts like refuge, like having a pile of stuff that creatures can live in, not over cleaning, giving a place for habitat that animals can range out from, and good and bad, but you get a balance in the long run. You get a balance, and that takes care of problems in your garden. Nutrient recycling, keeping what falls on my property stays on my property, and I try and make that a policy for all of my customers as well. It can't always be done, and that stuff usually ends up coming back here and getting added to the pile. And it's neat to watch it evolve. Again, like I said, though, it's not instant. The new cleanup methods, where we leave the stems a little bit higher. So each of these little hollow stems becomes a potential insect home. And again, you get the good and the bad. But generally speaking, everything balances out. This apparently is the easiest thing that we can do to support pollinators, is to, when we clean up our garden, ideally in the spring, leave things standing 6 to 8 inches tall. It'll all be covered over in no time anyway. And you'd need to educate everybody, students and customers, about why we're doing this. We're not just not getting around to cleaning up properly, but here's what we're doing, and people will engage with that. They'll jump on concepts like let it lay. Instead of cleaning up every little scrap and taking it off the property, just cutting it down and leaving it where it is. And that's much better, less infrastructure needed to get rid of all that stuff. The idea of sending stuff away in little brown bags just drives me up the wall, just if for no other reason than my tax bill. And there's new products on the market as well. There's always new things. And to me, my favorite thing about gardening is that I'm never going to know it all, ever. There's so much. I want to learn my sedges this week. No, Sean, there's 96 species of sedge in Halton County alone. Oh, okay, so I'll learn a few. What new products are coming out? Products like honeycomb tile systems and these sort of glorified sandbags. Don't let my friend who sells them hear me say that, but that you can plant into. And now you've got a stormwater feature as well, because it absorbs water and then slowly releases it. And you have a green wall that reduces the heat island effect, and you're not blasting stuff out of the escarpment and hauling it all over southern Ontario with great big diesel engines. These are all good opportunities in my mind. And I'm getting close to my maximum allotted time before we answer 1,000 questions, hopefully. But we're getting in tune with the idea of obligate feeders now, and supporting those. So I have a plant in my garden called New Jersey tea, which is food for, among other things, the mottled dusky wing butterfly. It's a boring little brown butterfly, but there are very few of them left. So if we can incorporate this, it's a good thing. When I moved in, there was snowberry here, some forecroppers, and I have 30 years ago, I saw a snowberry clearwing, and I have wanted to see another one for 30 years. And I've put up with this. I don't love the plant, to be honest. I've put up with this snowberry for 30 years. I was sitting out on my front step designing one day. I looked over at my Joe Pye weed and went, there it is. Ran and grabbed my camera, and for like half an hour, this beautiful little day flying moth, which looks like a cross between a bee and a hummingbird, flew around and feasted in my garden, and I glowed. It was incredible. I'm still thrilled by this, and have started taking that lesson and using it in my landscapes. So, you know, these are things that we can share, and in my classes, obviously, we can share with our students, we can share with our customers, we can take these ideas out and proselytize in the community. We don't have water coolers anymore, but the water cooler talk should be about how cool all this stuff is, because people want it. They're hungry for solutions. The world is challenging right now. If only I could do something. Well, how much time do you have? I'll tell you in 15 minutes how much we can do. It's incredible what we can do right now. Soil stewardship. I'm going to skip through a bit of this because you can look at it in more detail later. But soil stewardship might be the way to turn around climate change. If we can get people stewarding the soil better, it can sequester not through the plant roots as much as all of the life in there, the bacteria and the fungi and the viruses and the archaea. That can sequester carbon and make our plants happier and healthier. And there's more. Like this is just skimming the surface. Green roofing, fabulous, and also providing habitats for all sorts of creatures that we thought were in trouble. They are in trouble, but we're giving them habitat now. Even switching to battery-powered equipment. I'm bullfrog powered. I'm zero carbon footprint. I pay a little bit of extra money so that my gas is methane and my hydro is solar and small scale hydro, and my vehicles are offset. Someone else gets an upgrade to biodiesel. So when I do have to pull out my mower, usually to mulch up stuff, I know that it's not adding to the carbon footprint problem because it's charged by green energy. There's all of these things every day that we can dovetail onto. And newsletters galore, Anthropocene and CBC's, I forget the name of that, head of the second name. Yeah. So I'm going to take questions, and this will go out in the PDF that gets sent out in the memory saves. These are all clickable. So there's information that folks are welcome to use. I post videos all the time that anybody who wants. The more that we can share, the power of sharing information, the stronger we all get. And that came out when we were doing the Red Seal. You know, Michael and so many great people were involved in that and spread that. You know, that information went across Canada. So I love questions. If I know the answer, it makes me feel good. If I don't know the answer, it makes me learn stuff, which makes me feel good. So feel free. Is it possible that the link should be shared in an accessible way? Is this accessible enough, or did you have something in mind? If you get a PDF of this with clickable links, Monica is asking, do you have other ideas to make it more accessible?
No, thank you, Sean. As long as they are clickable in the
Yes.
PDF, then I'm
Yep.
good. Thank you.
Okay, cool, excellent. So, questions about all this jazz?
Sean, I'm going to start. Forgive me, I was supposed to introduce you, but technical difficulties here. Me and technology. Lissa saved the day. Thanks, Lissa. Sean, you've been to the Cuddy Gardens.
I have. It's beautiful.
And you know what we do there and our philosophy of operating, which is well in line with yours. What would you suggest is one thing that we can do better there?
Wow. How much time do you have? No, I'm just kidding.
I don't think we're that bad.
I can't really say anything too bad. A few of the plants from there might have fallen into my suitcase.
Yeah.
Now I haven't seen the whole season run.
Right.
I know that watching out for what species can be invasive is something that I would apply to pretty much every botanical garden. And I mean, I have, thanks to you, I have an Amur, Prunus macchii, an Amur cherry, but I'm watching it in my garden run.
Yes.
And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
geez, if that got in the wild. I don't know how you deal with leaves that fall, if you just mulch them and play it where it lays.
We do, yes.
Okay,
yeah.
perfect. Then that's good. The big thing, I think, the other big thing that everybody could do, and your soil is beautiful, so it probably doesn't apply to you particularly, is soil stewardship.
We've been amending our soil for since 1991, right?
Digging in or putting on top, or what do you do today?
On top.
Good.
On top.
Yeah, that's excellent. Then I don't have too awfully much to add. Some of the larger grass areas actually don't have that much grass either. I'd like to see more people with grass, be they a botanical garden or just Joe Homeowner, switching a little bit of it at least to meadow. Everybody's wailing about there's so much work to do, so make a bit of it into meadow. And shockingly, people are saying yes. I've been peddling this stuff for years. I
Yeah.
used to just hide it in landscapes. And now I'm saying, have you thought about a meadow? And people are going, what a great
Yeah.
idea. And I fall over backwards
Well,
because how far they've come, how fast is amazing.
Yeah. Our meadow is, I think, going into its 3rd year now. Anyhow, I see we've got some questions here, so I don't want to domineer here, Sean. The first question is coming from I'm not sure who it's coming from, but we'll ask Sean about his 5 all-star plants.
Oh boy. All-star's a tough call. I mean, there's certain native plants, like for instance, I usually have to compartmentalize things to answer a question like this. So my 3 bulletproof plants for shade, native plants, would be, my 3 bulletproof plants for shade in general would be Solomon seal, flowering raspberry, and big root geranium, which is not native. But if I had to go native, then I'd take that off the list and put oak sedge or any of the sedges, the dryland sedges on that list. For sun plants, geez, it's so overwhelming. The milkweeds, obviously, let's put them all in one category. If you want to spark the envy of the people passing by, opuntia are super cool, and you can eat them. Nopales de Norte, cactus too. Other great plants in my garden. I mean, you got to watch things. Like I was in Veronicastrum is great, Culver's root, but I was in love with my globe thistle. And then I noticed it spreading, and oh my God. And so now we're leading a battle to get rid of it, but the seeds stay dormant for a while. So it takes a while. So you really got to watch things that try and get carried away. And then I feel like I should throw a tree in there. So I think we're overusing service berries a little bit. I think we're on the verge of that, which is great that we're using it. But if we use too much of any one thing, like Septoria leaf spot on black-eyed Susans, Rudbeckia, then we get one disease sweeping through. So I would push people toward nannyberry or Indian raisin. That's a great plant, and it satisfies so many metrics. And maybe one of the dogwoods, like silky dogwood or gray dogwood, which silky dogwood at least has a cool name, and blueberries. And gray dogwood has a terrible name. We need to get some marketing people on this. Burgundy dogwood, that's better. Burgundy berry dogwood.
Okay, what's the Latin for dogwood? That is cornus. So any of the cornus.
Yep.
Oh no, sorry, it was that specific dogwood that he was mentioning. I know it's cornus, but I just wondered.
Cornus amomum is silky dogwood, and just fun to say. Amomum, AMOMUM.
Amomum. Oh, that's a good one. New one for me. Thanks.
And gray dogwood is Cornus racemosa. And it's just why people plant burning bushes beyond me, when you can have something that has spring flower, summer berries that the birds like, spectacular fall color, and in some cases winter interest. I guess it's a cyme. Michael can correct me. The structure that holds the flowers.
You're correct.
Okay. When everything's gone, those are bright red, and they persist on the plant into February, and it gives it this beautiful pink haze. So like 4 seasons of interest, that's a hell of a checklist. And it's rain garden tolerant and drought and everything else. Okay. Wow, things are getting hot and heavy here.
Yeah, so there was a question about soil tests, but it seems to have been answered. I can make a suggestion there. A&L Labs, if you want to get a soil test with quantifiable results that you can share with a student, about $60, I think, Sean, right, for a soil test?
Well, yes, that's who I'd guide people to as well. Although, and people may not like this answer, I don't ever test for soil in much the same way as I don't test. I don't fertilize things. If I treat the soil microbiome as well as I can, and if I plant for the local soil type, and around here it would either mostly be clay or maybe sand, and then steward the soil well, nutrient recycling, putting it on top year after year. Like I've got Milton clay. There's a brickyard near here. I've got bricks with Milton on them. And yet I have this rich, friable soil, and I don't have any deficiencies. I don't have any abundances, overabundances. Everything's just healthy because I steward the soil better. And I really think that would save us a lot of angst if we just match the plant to the soil type. So
if you look behind me here, you will see yellow brick at the house, and Sean will know this because he's been here. And this is the same soil that's in the Cuddy Gardens. And Sean has seen the soil there where now you can stick your hand easily into it.
It's beautiful. And
and
that soil is very low in iron, isn't it, Michael?
it is.
I
Yeah,
asked Michael, like, why is it yellow?
yeah, we do have some iron problems, but yeah.
I reached out. So in my courses, I like to draw from as many sources as I can, and I collect experts. So I reached out to Dr. Linda Chalker Scott to get her to send me some pictures of deficiencies of various nutrients in plants. And as you may or may not know, Linda does not suffer fools lightly, and I love her to death. But she said, generally, there's no such thing unless you're over farming the soil like big ag. You're not going to have nutrient deficiencies. And I said, well, what about iron? She said, it isn't an iron problem. It's an overabundance of phosphorus because the changing of the pH releases too much phosphorus, and then it occupies the sites in the like, wow, really? Like,
Yeah.
so fascinating stuff. And if we can also, there's a great book by Robert Pavelis about garden myths, and there's so many things that, up until recently, even I, and probably still, all these things that we tell people, like, that's just wrong. What about ground up calcium tablets to stop tomato blossom rot or tomato end rot?
Okay, I'm going to interrupt you there because you're going to go on and on and on and on and on. And I see a very good question. I see a very good question here because you're getting old. I'm getting older. I think I'm older than you. Advice for students considering this is a career, and I know what Sean's going to say first, where to go to school, right? Where both you and I went, but
also the apprenticeship program.
Yeah, the apprenticeship. I think the apprenticeship program is. I wish I knew about apprenticeship when I went into their career.
It's mighty in depth.
Yeah, so the apprenticeship, and then there was a question with job prospects, and I would say, and I think Sean's going to agree. Sorry, Sean, sky's the limit.
Oh, absolutely. Right? We need what, 150,000 people in Ontario in our industry. Yeah. I would say to counsel students to be more cautious. An interview to me is a two-way street. Interview them too. Ask them what their safety program's like. The students that I see in apprenticeship that leave their employer leave because of safety issues. Ask them what their training program is going to be like. Ask them what they're going to learn working there. Show them not only that you care, because those questions show that you care, and the right employer is going to gravitate to that, but also, you're seriously asking them because it's your future that's on the line. And people, our industry, I mean, now we have the employer of choice program, which is awesome. But some of us old farts have a long way to go about learning how to deal with younger people. It's my way or the highway, get out of the way, which is not true, but that's a lot of our generation is like that. Their generation's collaborative, and we have to learn, if we want to get and keep these people, we have to learn to live within that. Because I come at it from both the teacher and the employer standpoint.
I think if you looked at the three of us up here on the screen right now, and I can see myself, Alyssa, and you, and three of us all with a education in horticulture, and all doing slightly different things with our careers and the routes that our careers have taken. Yeah. From me working overseas, to Alyssa working for our provincial trade organization, to you doing eco consulting and writing.
No matter what you want to do.
Yeah, we've all gotten away from the heavy work because we know that, with the exception of Alyssa, because she's much.
I got dirt under my fingernails.
But yeah, we've gotten away from the heavy work. Maybe not by choice, but just by direction. But sky's the limit, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely true. You want to be a carpenter, a plumber, an electrician. There are places for people in horticulture, and showing them how we can change the world this way brings more and more of them in and shows them that they have a place in the world, especially the differently minded. A lot of people in our industry didn't do well in school, and it wasn't their fault. They just didn't fit within the little cardboard cutout that they were supposed to. If we can show them that in our industry, there's a place for everyone. If you're super concentrated on details, welcome. If you just want to move big things fast, welcome. Whatever you want to do, there's a place for you, and a place for a diversity of people as well. I think that's an important message for us to get across. We're a welcoming industry. We're friendly folks. We plant plants for a living. We're friendly.
Okay, now that the train has gone by, you can still hear me, Lisa? Can you? Am I okay? Clear?
I couldn't hear the train.
You could. I muted myself while it blew its horn. Sean, thank you. Sorry, I was not here to give you the introduction you deserve, but I'm sure Lisa did a much better job because she actually wrote a script, and I said I didn't need one because I knew you well enough. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.